What do you remember about angles that are opposite to each other? This angle is opposite to this angle. What can you tell me about that? Louder.
They're equal to each other?
They will always be equal. So if this angle is 50 degrees, what is this angle? What does this angle have to be? 50 degrees. If whatever this angle is, the angle opposite to it will also be equal. Does that mean that red and blue are equal? No. Red and red are equal. Blue and blue are equal. Only if they're opposite to each other. So angle A is equal to angle C. Angle B is equal to angle D. A supplementary angle are two angles that you would find on a straight line. So I'll call this angle A and I'll call this angle B. Together, they form what? How many degrees? If I were to take angle A and add it to angle B, what would they have to add up to? Raise your hand. Good. 180 degrees. So supplementary angles are two angles whose sum, the sum means when you add it together, will always add up to 180 degrees. Doesn't have to be drawn that way. I want you to draw this on the side. It can be like this. A plus B. I want you to copy this down. A and B. You can draw it this way. Doesn't matter. It's any two angles on a straight line will always add up to 180. So, if this is 65 degrees, I want you to write that, copy that down. Let's pretend angle B is 65 degrees. How would you find angle A? Good. 180, take away 65 equals 115 degrees. So angle A has to be 115 degrees. Check your answer. Somebody said 105. Does 105 plus 65 add up to 180? No. Check your answer. Make sure the two answers add up to 180. Complementary angles are two angles that always form a right angle. So they have to add up to, what is a right angle? 90 degrees. Okay? So any two angles add up to 90. If they form a right angle, if you split them up, doesn't have to be split even. The two angles together, A and B, and it's there on the paper, will always equal 90 degrees. Okay, so the next rules that we're going to go through only apply if there is something called a transversal, which is a line that crosses through parallel lines. If those two lines are not parallel, none of these rules apply. Do you guys remember that from grade 9? The lines have to be parallel. If I draw a line through it, we can see many different patterns. One, if there's a transversal that crosses two parallel lines, we can draw an F. So everyone draw an F. You should have a highlighter or colored pen. And looking at the F pattern, we are looking for angles that correspond. It means they're in the same position. So this angle is below the parallel line, which means that this angle corresponds to that angle because it's also below the parallel line. Any two angles that correspond and form an F pattern will always be what? Equal. Write that down. Okay, we can draw the letter Z. So let's draw the letter Z. And again, you are looking for angles that are alternate this time. They're not corresponding, they're alternate. They're alternating. So this angle and this angle are alternating. If in a Z pattern, if the angles are alternating, are they different or are they equal?
Equal.
Good. So with a Z pattern, you can find angles that are equal. We can draw the Z. Now I'm confusing myself. We can draw it this way. This angle is alternating with that angle. Again, the two blue angles will be equal as well. We would not say that the blue angle and the red angle are equal, but based on what you just learned, what do the blue and the red angle add up to? 180. So once, it's like filling in a puzzle. Once you figure all the patterns, you can eventually figure all the unknown angles here. Okay, so we can find a C pattern. So we can draw a C, and this one is called co-interior. So this gives you a clue. Co-interior angles are inside, interior, inside. Now, think about it. Just by looking at that, do you think those angles are equal? Do they look like they would be equal? Yes? No, they're not actually. They're not corresponding and they're not alternating. They're co-interior. I'm going to call this A and B. They equal 180. Good. That's why I can't just get this paper right for you. Yeah. Like it's written right there.
Yeah. So
okay?
that's what I wrote on the board.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so co-interior, if you have two angles inside, in the back. You, I forget your name. Anyone else? What other two angles? Christian. What two letters would also add up to 180? I've done A and B, C and D. Are there any other letters that add up to 180? Like any of these letters add up to 180? I'll come back. Nope, not C and B. Nope, C and B do not add up to 180. They are on a Z. What's your name again? Joseph. I'm just scribbling. Okay? So this is... Which... F? No, we're looking at mine. Don't look at the paper. You're right, C and F. You're right. On your paper, it's C and F. There's one more pair of angles that would be equal. And excellent. You just summarized all the rules of angles. You're good. Okay. And I'm not going to record the next one. Interior and exterior angles of a triangle. Bottom of the page. Actually, maybe I will.